Welcome to
House of Whimsical Terror.
I'm Esther.
I'm Mary.
And we are here at my aunt's actual House of Whimsical Terror, which is where our podcast got its name. She let us use the House of Whimsical Terror. So every holiday, she has something magnificent. And around this time of year, the Halloween or Samhain time of year, she does this amazing, beautiful House of Whimsical Terror. So everything's kind of pretty and somewhat terrifying and kind of old looking, like haunted house, but a pretty haunted house.
Yes.
And this is what we are here doing. We wanted to bring you all in to experience it with us. And we are going to be interviewing folks who are here asking for their spooky stories. So you'll hear laughter and merrymaking in the background. And that's because everyone is here enjoying the House of Whimsical Terror. It's a very great party atmosphere.
Yes, it is. And there'll be a picture from the House of Whimsical Terror that will denote this episode.
Perfect.
Yes. Are we ready?
We're ready. We're here with my Aunt Loraine, who is a magnificent party giver and artist.
And everything.
Yeah, everything. Storyteller. Yeah. She's a brilliant storyteller.
Yes. So because we're here at the House of Whimsical Terror, I wanted to ask you when you first started conceiving of or having the House of Whimsical Terror event.
Well, it started about maybe 18 years ago. I did not go heavy into Halloween until about 18 years ago. And it actually started to happen because of a dear friend that I used to work with, who I just adored. Her name was Ricky, or is Ricky. And she knew about the parties. She'd come over to some parties over here, mainly Christmas or Easter, birthday parties. And she asked me, well, what are you doing for Halloween? And I said, no, not much. I don't really, I don't dress up. I don't do Halloween. She goes, no, you have to do Halloween. How can you not do Halloween?
I totally agree.
So I thought about it, and I thought, well, if Ricky wants me to do Halloween, then I should do Halloween. Right. And it started with, I get a lot of inspiration, of course, like from other artists. And I remember flipping through some magazines and seeing some small paper mache little creatures, and I was fascinated by them. I'm like, how do you do that? And my first efforts were really, you can see them because I still have some of the first ones that I made, and they're very rough. And I gained a little more finesse in shaping them and painting them and things like that. So it started with that little trick-or-treat parade. Wow. And there was something about the trick-or-treat parade that I wanted it to be like at once terrifying and fun, because Halloween can be like that.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you see little children and they're all out in the streets and they're so joyous, and then there might be some other person lurking around the corner. So that was kind of the feeling that I wanted, and that's why I came up with the expression of the House of Whimsical Terror. A little bit fun, but a little bit creepy at the same time.
Yes, right. And it is. It's beautiful and creepy.
It is. Every inch of the house in the yard is decorated, if our listeners can just imagine.
And you've outdone yourself. I love your beautiful little creatures, the paper mache. I can't even pick out a favorite because they're all magnificent. But you've outdone yourself this year. You have human-sized creatures. There's a little witch's garden that is incredible.
Yeah.
May I just point out to you that behind you is the trick-or-treat parade, the original creepy creatures. And the thing about that is they're very pissed off because they are not the stars of the show. They've been the stars of the show for probably about the last 10, 12 years. True. And now these big girls came along and stole the show from them. So they're not all that happy, I'll tell you right now. Okay.
which is scary tonight when everybody's gone, when they are angry and getting their revenge.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
there's
and
like
they're hungry.
100 of
You can
them.
tell they are hungry. So
But the
anything could
beauties
happen.
in the garden are pretty incredible. There's a sign that says "I smell children," and there are these beautiful, like I don't even know what to call them. They don't look like they have an essence of traditional, Halloween style witch, but they've got other amazing things about
Yeah,
them.
and an eerie quality about them, but they're beautiful.
Yeah.
Haunting.
They're not particularly scary to me. I find that the things that I make, I'm not afraid of. In fact, my great granddaughter Manaya actually helped me.
Who just walked
Who we
by.
just heard.
Yeah.
She helped me make them and paint some of them, and so she's not the least bit phased by any of this. She just takes it in stride because she's seen the making of the sausage, if you will. She's seen that it's just paper mache and and maybe a little bit of clay and some paint, and that's really all it is. But I thought it was a fun display, and that also came from something I saw on Facebook, and I dearly wanted to buy them. They look so cute. Something similar, not exactly like that. Of course, I couldn't replicate what I saw on Facebook, but when I looked up the details on buying them, it turned out that they were only about 5 or 6 inches tall.
Oh.
But on Facebook, they made it look like they were these, 4 or 5 or 6 feet tall creatures. That something about the way they photographed them made them look full size. And when I saw that they were only 6 inches, I'm like, hell with that. And so I decided to make my own, and that's how those came about.
Mm-hmm. And they are full size.
Yeah, they are. They're all full of it.
And they each have their own personality. They're pretty incredible.
And I'm going to say something about this year. There is a dual theme in the House of Whimsical Terror 2023. One of it
the finale.
is well, it is the finale. Yes. You might have noticed the sign in the front that says "Time Flies," and I have lots of clocks and stuff throughout the house, especially in that front room. And also, I smell children in the back. Mm-hmm. And because I gave some thought, like, okay, what is scary to people? And I think that one of the things that is just always like, if you love children and if you're around them, they are the most precious thing. And we are, we must protect them at all costs whenever we can. Yes. And so it's a joke. I smell children, and there's little baby graveyards and stuff
and
like
your
that.
Granddaughter or great granddaughter helped you.
Yeah, but
great.
I also have that thought in mind that in these times that we're living in right now, I think that we should be a little more conscious of protecting children and taking care of them and nurturing them and loving them and treating them like the absolute precious jewels that they are, and so there's that part of it. Then there's the time flies aspect, which I had that same theme a few years back, but I brought it back again because everybody says that. Oh my gosh, was that really 2 months ago? Was that really 20 years ago? It just feels like time does fly. And Dolly said something kind of interesting in a movie that I watched recently, and he was telling a young apprentice that the thing that he feared the very most in life was death, and it almost seemed like that would be counter to what something Dali would say. He would be fearless or something, But he said that because he feared death so immensely that and passionately, that it helped him feel even more alive, because he was so aware of that being a possibility at any time. So that's the other aspect of time flies.
Excellent.
Wow.
Well, we are honored to be a part of this festival every year in your beautiful home.
Absolutely.
And it's really terrifying. I would not want to be here alone at night. I mean, there's just beautiful things that are really scary. And also, I just want to mention that our very first story, La Llorona, is a story you told me when I was a little girl. And I've learned so much about storytelling from you, and I'm grateful. And I'm very excited that we're sending off Whimsical Terror, and grateful that you gifted us the title for our podcast.
So House of Whimsical Terror.
My honor.
Move forward.
Ojalá.
On another plane.
Ojalá. And I just want to say something about parties in general, that you don't have to do it over the top. I know that sometimes people must go, what is that crazy old lady doing over there? Oh my goodness. But it's something that just gives me a lot of pleasure. I've always enjoyed throwing parties. I started throwing parties when I was like 9 years old. And I want to just plant that little seed in nieces and great nieces and great nephews and great granddaughters, that it's important to gather together as a family, because if we didn't have these, the connections that are being made even right now outside wouldn't be there. Somebody has to make a little bit of effort to bring people together, and it doesn't take that much. It's some food and maybe some beverages and throw a little something together. And my favorite saying for any task that I'm going to undertake is, motivation happens after you get started. That is so important to me, because sometimes you're laying there and you're, I don't feel like it. I have to get motivated to do it. And no, I found over the course of 70 years that you actually just start. You start with one little section right here and you make it as nice as you can. And then you go, oh, well, over there, that needs some love over there too. And then, and that's how you develop a scene like the one that I have.
Which is remarkable.
And so motivation happens after you get started. Everybody just party on. That's all I have to say.
Everybody just party on. I'm all for it.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So
we are heading out to interview some of your guests.
Excellent. Go see what they have to say.
We wanted you first and foremost and most important.
Important. Absolutely.
And thank you all for your love that I feel and have always felt ever since I met you, Mary, and ever since you were born, Esther.
Esther's
very special.
Been scaring me since I was 15. So
thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
All right. Salud. All right.
I love you, Thea.
Love you too, guys. Bye.
Bye.
So our first guest is Duncan, and Duncan has a brief story that Duncan's going to share with us. So
so when my dad and my mom was pregnant with me still, I think. So they were living with each other, and the house they live in is kind of creepy. It was built a while back, but my tata and his dad built that house together, and they lived in it for a long time. So my dad and my I think it's like my great nana, because it was his nana.
Okay.
They were close. They were good friends. But she died. I think she died before I was born. So my dad and my mom were in the house, and they were talking. And my dad went in the kitchen to get a glass of water, and then he left for a second, and then he came back, and in that split second, every single drawer and everything was just wide open.
Oh, whoa.
And originally he thought my nana was pulling a prank on him, but there's no way. It was in that split second.
No.
So we got creeped out, and he kind of knew at heart that it was her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a cool story. Yeah.
That is such a cool
great story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us tonight.
Yeah, Duncan, thank you for jumping in and being our first person.
Just like that.
Yeah.
That's totally awesome.
Thank you. So we're here with Nini, and right over her shoulder is a gorgeous full moon. And what is that planet under it?
Jupiter.
Jupiter is bright underneath it. There's probably a meaning to that, but I don't know astrology, or astronomy. You have a great story about your mom that you'd like to tell us.
She visits me often in the house, and you can feel the presence. But one fun thing is she liked birds, so she loved the roadrunner. So we always just say when we see a bird, oh, there's Hope. She's coming to visit us.
Oh, beautiful.
And she went to a lot of yard sales, and she had a basket, with like dried flowers and stuff like that. And in the dried flowers was like a little motion detector bird. So when you walk by the basket of fruit or whatever, it would chip, 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 chip. So we found when we were cleaning out from her passing, and there's a lot of stories around that too, but how she visits me is we just getting rid of her stuff. Philip put a battery in the little bird, so we put it into the laundry room. But we would hear it chirping all the time in the laundry room, and I would just think air current or something like that, because it wasn't chirping when someone was in there. It was just chirping randomly. And then Philip was on a trip, and I was alone in the house, and for 3 days that bird was chirping the whole time. And I even have a film of it talking to her, and it would respond to me, the little chirping bird and stuff like that. So that is really...
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, so she comes to me and in that way.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And before she passed, I have the spidey sense, so I can sense when spirits around and see them and stuff. But she was an old cattle ranch girl. So one night I woke up and there was a cowboy with a cowboy hat standing there looking at me, and she was in the latter stage of almost dying, and she goes, "Oh, that was Claude coming to get me," and it was a perfect cowboy,
Oh,
So I got a lot of hope stories.
I love that. I love that. Then Nina, you're going to come back and do like a full show with us, like a podcast with us, which we are very excited about.
Yeah, the phone call.
Okay.
That's what we want.
All right, we're going to be coming for you.
Coming back at you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, thank you so
Nice
much.
meeting you.
So much.
Bye.
Bye. So we are here with Josiah,
Yes, we are.
another guest at the party.
Yes.
And he has some really interesting stories. He's going to tell us one of them. We also found out there is another story that he can't let be public, but we get to hear it secretly later.
Yes.
And I don't know why I said that out loud, but
Why not?
ha 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 to people.
You don't get to listen.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Josiah, which story do you think you want to tell us?
Honestly, so I work at a location. I don't know if I should say the location, but I work at a spot.
Yeah.
And when I first got hired there, everyone was telling me like, yo, like, we were built on an Indian burial ground, the stereotypical,
Mhm.
like, so it's haunted.
We've all heard that.
Exactly.
Yep.
Which I don't know if that's a fact, but I know I've seen some stuff. And when I first started working, one of my managers told me like, yo, there's this little girl who she'll be in the stock room. You'll see her every once in a while, like creepy. And, I'm into all of the spooky stuff, but I was, not as much of a believer until this started happening. But so I work in a shoe store. I'm not gonna say which one, but in the stockroom there's a bunch of shoes and everything, and you'd be back there, and if I was by myself, I would hear like footsteps, like all the time. It got to a point where I would like walk out to the floor to see if there was anybody in the stockroom, and sure enough, there was nobody on the stockroom. It was just me. And I'd hear footsteps and everything, and that would freak me out. And then, the footsteps turned into boxes, shuffling and boxes moving.
Oh, boy.
At the point, I'm still trying to think, like, oh, there's a reasonable explanation for all of this.
Right.
And it didn't get until I got to a point where, like, I would see boxes move, or I would see boxes, like, I would hear them fall off the shelf. And I would look around, and there's nobody in the stockroom. So I'd see a bunch of stuff falling, and that was very creepy. And that led up to, like, I would see this little shadowy figure out the corner of my eye. Every time I was walking down one of the aisles, there was a little shadowy figure, and it freaked me out.
And, eventually I did see the little girl, and I went up to my manager freaking out because I was like, yo, I think somebody let their kid in the stock room. And she was like, what do you mean there's nobody with kids in the store? And I'm like, no, I swear, like I just saw this little girl in the stock room. And she looked at me and she was like, yo, is she wearing a white dress? And I was like, she is wearing a white dress. And she was like, yo, does she have black hair? And I was like, she does have black hair. And she was like, yo, that's the ghost. And it got to a point where I was seeing her so much that I wasn't even scared anymore. Like, it was creepy for sure, but it was just, she never did anything bad, never hurt anybody, so I wasn't too afraid.
Accustomed to her.
Yeah, accustomed to her. I needed to see her, honestly. If I didn't see her, it was a bad part of my day. But I was walking around the stockroom one day, and I was like climbing on the shelves because you can climb up to get to like higher boxes. And I saw this super duper old looking turquoise bracelet. And I went up to my manager and I was like, yo, like, whose bracelet is that? And she was like, what bracelet are you talking about? And I was like, look, on the top of the shelf, there's a bracelet. And I showed her the bracelet. I like grabbed it and brought it down to her. And she went pale as can be. She started freaking out. She was like, yo, that bracelet's never been in the stockroom before. This is a brand new store. Like, I don't know who could have brought that or what that is. And going back to having been built on a native burial ground, they use turquoise a lot, so we just came to the conclusion that the ghost may have been attached to that, and that we shouldn't touch it. So to this day, 100%. To this day, it's still sitting up there. I have a lot of new hires because I'm a manager now. I've been working there for so long, but I have a lot of new hires who, whenever they climb up to go get the box and stuff, they'll see the bracelet and they'll ask me about it, and I'm like, yo, put it down.
Leave it there.
Leave it alone. Be respectful. And I tell them the story, and they never believe me until they hear boxes moving and footsteps. It's pretty creepy.
Wow.
Pretty creepy.
Josiah,
Thank you.
that was excellent.
That was amazing. Thank you so much.
I got you.
We're here now with Luna, and she has an interesting, very short story that she's going to tell us about. And she's a fascinating human, so I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah.
Too.
And I'm hoping to come back on your podcast for an episode in the future to talk about more like in-depth stories. But,
yes, please.
One instance of like a ghost story in my life, I was at a friend's house, and I stayed at this friend's house pretty often. And it was just me, her mom, and her home at this time, and we're sitting in the kitchen like talking. I think we might have been making some food or something, and I look over and she has like a little like entryway room, not like a living room, but like one of those like you walk in and it's like a sitting room, I guess. And I look over and I see this little girl sitting in one of the chairs in a dress, just minding her business, whatever. And I'm like, oh, cool, whatever. Like, look away. And I like think about it a little longer, and I'm like, wait, like her sister's not home. No, like who was that? And I look back over and she's gone. So simple little story. But
Interesting.
Whoa.
And you're going to come back later and tell us some more in-depth stories.
Yes.
But we love that little creepy anecdote. Thank you,
Thank
Luna.
you.
Our next guest at the party is Cheyenne. Cheyenne is a wonderful storyteller, and I've asked her to come back and be the primary guest for a future podcast. But she does have a short story to tell us today, which we're excited about.
Awesome. All right. So this one was, I had quit my job and I was traveling around the United States, and I had two really creepy things happen to me when I got to Louisiana. But one of them was this very vivid dream that I remember. It was so vivid that I didn't actually know that I was asleep until I came to. So in my dream, I was driving on this road, and at this point, I've been on so many roads, so many hills, everything's kind of blurred together. And I'm driving on this road, and a squirrel out of nowhere runs out of the road, and I hit it. And I stop and I feel guilty, but it's pitch black. There's no one around. I'm probably safe to get out of my car. but I'm in that in between debating. Do I get out? There's nothing I can do. It's a squirrel. It's a car. There's no chance. But I look in my rear view mirror and my brake lights, and I can see it twitching in the road.
Oh.
And so I have this shame, this guilt, and then I see another squirrel hop out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I killed its partner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But all the sadness, all this guilt. So I'm completely lost in my own head, looking at this squirrel, trying to console the other dying squirrel. And something comes out of that squirrel's back.
Ooh.
What?
Whoa.
What?
And I go, okay, so maybe it's not a squirrel, though it moved across the road as a squirrel would. So I started telling myself, it's a bat, it's a bird, there's a wing, that was a wing, but it's not a wing, it looks like a hand.
Oh.
And I'm trying, it's pitch black, I'm trying not to tell myself it's a hand, it can't be a hand, and the second one comes out of the squirrel's back, and it reaches around the squirrel, and I think it's gonna carry it off, bury it or whatever this creature is gonna do. And it picks the squirrel up, the dying squirrel, and it snaps its neck.
Oh my gosh.
And I wake up immediately in a pitch black tent, having just taken a road very similar to the one in my dream.
Oh.
Knowing that there's things out there that look like squirrels.
They're not.
They're not.
That do mercy killings.
Yeah,
Whoa.
or I don't know if it was taking it for food, or
Right.
I don't know what the thing, but I
like
wasn't-
your positive spin as to
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, they didn't.
wow.
It just the what really got me about it was there was no hesitation. It didn't look gentle. I was in my feelings, feeling guilty. I had killed this squirrel, and it just came over and snapped
Just
its neck like
snapped it.
nothing.
Wow.
Yikes.
What
That's
remarkable.
terrifying.
That's remarkable.
Yeah. So
Oh.
that was terrifying to
Yeah.
experience in the
Yeah.
middle of the night with no one around for miles.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Completely creepy.
Uh-huh.
Ugh, I can't wait to have you as a guest.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to it, you guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was terrifying. So
Wow.
I'm glad I can share it.
Yes, thank you so much. That's, that's what our audience is all about.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
absolutely. Yeah. Awesome.
All
Thank
right,
you guys.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheyenne. We are here with a very, very, very special guest.
Super special.
Yes, Athena Blue, who is the composer and the performer of our intro outro music.
That's right.
She's an amazing musician. She's also a fantastic storyteller, and she has written something that she's going to read for us. So
Yeah.
we're very excited about this. It's a little, unusual for what we normally do. It's people like trying to recall something. This is an actual polished written piece
Yes.
by Athena, and I cannot wait. I haven't heard it, so
Oh, me either.
it's our first time.
We're delighted. All right.
Okay, well, this piece is entitled Self-Portrait.
Great.
She was a painter, specialized in the self-portrait, but she never painted the eyes. Always herself shone from behind. Like any other day, she was painting a self-portrait. This one was of herself painting in the room where she was. As she came to the finishing touches, she looked up from her palette and noticed 2 red dots on the canvas, appearing to be behind her painted self. Confused as to where they came from, she covered it up with her paintbrush and continued to add the finishing touch. Again, she looked up from the canvas, and the red dots were back, gleaming even more brightly, as if they were a pair of eyes, looking right at her through the painting. She covered the red dots again, but this time realized she hadn't poured any red paint on her palette. She dipped her brush again, thought she was coming to the end, but to her surprise, when she looked back at the canvas, there were 2 red eyes and a figure in the painting who stood behind. Was this a dream? She had to see. Shaking in fright, she turned back to the right, and suddenly she was gone, only to be seen in her self-portrait, where her red eyes gleam.
Whoa. That is really
Fantastic.
great. That is
Oh,
chilling.
You're such a
Thank you.
fabulous artist. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yes, and thank you for reading right through our lovely little children.
Yes,
spirits
enjoying
running
their
back and
whimsical terror.
I think it added
Yeah.
to the ambiance.
I think so.
That
I
used to
think
be
so.
you, one of these little
That's
children
right.
running around
Yeah.
whimsical terror. So, thank you, Athena, and thank you for the
Absolutely.
beautiful music and the
Fantastic.
beautiful story.
Thank you for letting me be part of this. This is awesome.
Thank you,
I'm
darling.
excited to hear the rest of your podcast.
All right. So everyone's been really fantastic about sharing their stories tonight, and we have a few more.
Yes, we're trying to get to everyone, but it's taking a while, so folks are starting to pack up. But we are going to try to get to a few more beautiful listeners, so we'll try to do that.
We're going to do that under the full moon
At the House of Whimsical Terror, the actual literal House of Whimsical
That's
Terror.
right.
So we are here with Ashley.
Yes.
And she has a story for us, which we have not heard. So we are very interested in hearing it.
Hi.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me
Absolutely.
at
Thank
the
you.
Whimsical
Terror
House.
That's right.
Yeah, my name is Ashley. Last name Tappin. Tapping that ash. That's scary in itself. I do have a couple stories that start off pretty scary, but then we have to laugh about it.
Okay.
All right.
Right?
We love that.
This is our comedy
Comedy
episode of the mini episode of
Woo!
it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right.
All right. Well, there I was. I'm gonna say late 2000s, and I was at a. I just pushed that.
No, no, you're good.
Yeah.
No, you're not. Okay, now you are.
There I was. I was at a house party, and I was in my mid-20s, and it was actually a Halloween party. So that's, I guess, what started off with the scare of that reminded me of my spooky story.
Perfect.
I climbed the second story of the scary story. It's scary actually in this moment, but you guys can't see this, but my mother is sitting right next to me, and
She looks scared. Mom looks scared.
does she look scared? Are you okay?
All right.
Okay. So I climbed this apartment, and it was in downtown New York, in upstate New York, but what doesn't matter, but it's the second story. And it's wood. It has a wood outdoor balcony on the second story. And my last name Tappin, I freestyle rap and tappin. And there I was freestyle rapping, and I was leaning on this wooden banister on the second story, and then it broke.
Oh my God.
Oh,
And I fell off of it.
That's not good.
oh, that's bad. And you're here.
So no
and
wonder
here I
your
am.
mom is terrified.
Yeah, and I think the scariest part of it is that I like rose like a zombie and climbed the stairs and got back up to the top of the party, and then went to the hospital. Can you just? And that's the spooky
Okay,
story.
perfect. Ashley,
story.
thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was great.
That was great.
So we are here with Miguel,
Yes,
who
we are.
is a great storyteller. He's also very funny,
Yeah.
but he has a scary story for us today.
I sure do. I sure do. Nice to be with you two ladies.
Nice to be with
Sharing
you.
spooky stories together.
Yes.
So, would you like to hear a scary story?
Yes, we would.
This is a
Especially-
true scary story. So it's
That
the real deal.
those
are
are the
the
ones we
ones.
prefer. And this is from the son of the queen of whimsical terror.
Yes, it is, because that's who you are. You're
Yeah.
like whimsical terror royalty.
Yeah, the
Oh, yeah.
prince of
the
whimsical terror.
prince of whimsical
Yeah,
terror.
I have the throne coming up soon. I'll
Yeah.
be sitting on it.
All right.
So, okay, so the story goes I was a young man, probably about 16 years old, and my parents were gone, and I was at home by myself, and I was sitting there in my bedroom watching TV, and it's whatever, nothing was going on. So I got up, made some food, came back into the bedroom, had a little plate of food all in front of me. We're getting ready to watch, of all things, Jerry Springer. It's like 11:30 at night, and it's like 1997, and my bedroom faces the front yard, and there's a spotlight that comes on when someone walks by, and I saw this big shadow of someone walking by, like to the back of where I'm sitting. There's a slump block wall behind my head where I'm sitting on my bed, and I'm looking at this shadow walk behind me, and I was like, that is really weird. It's like 11:30 at night. There shouldn't be anybody. It's a real quiet little neighborhood, and So I didn't think anything of it, and I'm just eating cheese tortillas and salsa and sour cream.
Delicious.
And I hear this huge thud, like right behind my head.
No.
Like someone threw a boulder.
And you
at
were
the wall.
alone.
And I was alone. And I'm not a little guy. But it scared me. A little pea came out.
Great.
I was like, oh my God. So I jumped up and I grabbed my baseball bat and I run to the window and pull the shade up and I slide the window open to like scare someone off. And it was pitch black out there, and I see this figure. This is true. He was like 6-7 feet tall, wearing trench coat, all black boots, and just turned around and looked at me and walked out to the middle of the road and took a left.
Quintessential shadow man.
Oh my God, it was so creepy. I was just like, I was frozen stiff. I couldn't move. I just stared at him, and then he just walked off. And then when they got past the sidewalk, it got real dark on the street, and he just kind of just vanished off. I couldn't go back to sleep. It was super fucking creepy.
That is
That's all good. Oh my God, that is super fucking creepy.
Yeah, and that's, the shadow man appears to lots of people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know who he is, but you saw him.
Yeah.
I heard of something else one time from a Native American friend of mine who says that you're not supposed to tell scary stories like this until the first snow hits the ground. Because you can wake up other spirits and they'll come out and you wake them up.
That means we can never tell them.
If we live in Tucson, yeah. But if we were in New Mexico, that would be a little easier
Yeah,
to
it
go
would be
about.
so great. Like we could tell them all the time we lived in Minnesota.
Yeah, so I was always scared about worry after they told me that. I was truck driving when they told me that story.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to just try not to think about that because we already told so many scary stories.
Oh, yeah.
Publicly
no snow.
on a
But
podcast.
eventually there was snow. So there was a first snow at some point.
It's snowing somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be all right.
Yeah, I think
We'll be okay.
Well, I'm sorry. I hope that was a good. That
It was
good.
a great
That was
story.
great. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, bunch.
Bye-bye.
So we have our last guest of the evening. Well, there's lots of more guests, but they are not willing to tell stories. But the ones that we're very grateful to.
Absolutely.
And among those is Eric.
Yes.
Who is going to tell us a story. He has a couple, but I think we're going to save one for a future episode on sleep paralysis. So, Eric, if you could tell us about your strange experience.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, it was a long time ago. I was living with some friends in downtown Denver at 1222 Pennsylvania, which is on Capitol Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this big house with beautiful, sliding doors and big wood paneled walls, and it's really nice. It's really a beautiful house.
Mm-hmm.
And we were renting this big long room on the first floor. It was kind of a casual setup. But anyway.
Let's knock on the door. Knock on the door.
I was told by my friends that every time I would leave and every time I would come and go, the lights would turn on and off.
Uh-huh.
And after a while, they started yelling at me to come back, to turn the light back on because the light had turned off when I left.
Oh, wow.
And
Hi, guys.
we can take a couple seconds here. And so after a while, we kind of got the idea that there was some kind of spirit following me around.
And two electric
and
things.
Decided that I needed the lights turned on for my entrances, and
Ooh, that's
it was weird. I didn't really, it didn't get to my head or anything, or I didn't really think anything of it at the time, but it's kind of endearing to think that a spirit would
cared enough to turn the lights on for you.
would follow you around and help you out in little ways like that.
Yes,
That's
So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I don't know who knew anything about it or anything like that, but there was a story of a little girl or somebody that was haunting the place.
Oh.
So.
And those old houses on, in Capitol Hill,
Yeah.
we know the area.
Oh,
we
yes.
lived there.
We lived there.
At a different time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a strong, it's a strong area.
That little girl obviously cared for you. So that's delightful. Thank you so
Yeah, it's fun.
much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Eric, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for that. And we look forward to having you at a future episode.
Yes, we absolutely do. And we want to thank our folks for listening in and
Yes, thank
coming
you
to
for
the house.
yes, thank you for being here with us on the Whimsical Terror House of Whimsical Terror finale. Not of our podcast, but of the actual event. This is the last year that Great Babuna is doing this event, so we're really soaking it all up. So thank you for being here with us on this day.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Next time.